Legend of Total War here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Medieval 2 Total War, and why I think now is the best time for us to request through Creative Assembly and Feral Interactive to make Medieval 2 Remastered. This is something that I would really like to see, something that I'd be willing to pay for to play it, and why I think is actually a good idea for them to go ahead with it from a business perspective. So in this video, what I want to do is talk about what I'd like to see in Medieval 2 Remastered, the things I'd like them to sort of fix up, but also talk about why I think it's a good business idea for Creative Assembly. Because if you're going to convince Creative Assembly, it's the only way to go about it, is convince them that they're going to make money by making this. It's going to be worth their time, and that's going to be good for their brand. Increase the brand prestige, because at the moment Total War has a little bit of a brand problem. Total War is not trending. The last few titles that Creative Assembly have released have had a few issues with them, various different things. I won't go into too much detail, but basically Total War is not reaching, at least it doesn't seem like it's not reaching much of a new audience, not compared to what it used to, and it's sort of fizzling off a little bit to a degree. And I think that capitalizing on nostalgia can work really well, and we've seen that work really well this week. So what I want to do is actually draw a parallel between Medieval 2 and Oblivion. And what happened this week? Well, Oblivion's remaster came out. So it came out 23rd of April, today's the 28th of April, and came out for $85 Australian, or $50 American, when you're not using Australian Monopoly money, and has been really very positively received. There's a lot of people talking about it. This had no marketing whatsoever. They basically just announced it. I think there was a leak or two about it. And then they just released it for people to buy and play. And I saw that at its peak, it got about 216,000 concurrent players. But it may have been more since then. I'm not entirely sure. Now's not peak time, so if you have a look at it, it's probably like 60,000 concurrent players. Yeah, that's fine. Because it ebbs and flows. People don't play it consistently 24 hours a day. But yeah, this has overall it's seemingly done very well. Now, based on we don't have all of the figures, but based on the concurrent players that we've seen, it's likely that we can make the assumption that Oblivion Remastered has sold at least 1 million copies, more likely closer to 2 million copies. Now, if we have a look at Medieval 2 and compare it to the original Elder Scrolls, we can start drawing some pretty interesting comparisons. Did you know that Medieval 2 and Oblivion are about the same age? So these are the original games. Medieval 2 came out in November of 2006, and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion came out in March of 2006. So Oblivion is technically a little bit older than Medieval 2. Now, it's really hard to know exactly how many copies Oblivion and Medieval 2 have sold in total, because there's a lot of like hard copies, like disc versions. I'm not entirely sure if Oblivion was on console or anything like this. But what we can do is look at something that actually gives us a decent amount of transparency and see how many people over the last 19 years, essentially, have registered their copy on Steam. So if we have a look at Medieval 2 specifically right now, I find of these owner estimations that Steam Spy tends to be the most accurate. I find that Play Tracker tends to be the least accurate, because what I think that Play Tracker does is actually counts anytime somebody downloads a game for free during like a free weekend, which is very evidently seen when we have a look at Shogun 2 stats, right? So Steam Spy says 3 million copies. That seems correct. 11 million seems like absolute fucking bullshit. There's no way that Shogun 2 sold that many copies. But if you take into consideration the fact that Shogun 2 has had at least 2 free weekends, if it's tracking that as well, well then it inflates the number. So for all of the rest of this video, I'm only going to use the Steam Spy owner estimations as the baseline here. But again, you can use whichever source you want. But like I said, based on what I'm seeing, Steam Spy seems to be the most accurate. Anyway, so looking at Steam Spy, we've got 1.59 million sold. Now this is based on just Steam alone. So there's probably a lot of people that bought the disc version of it and never registered on Steam. That's totally fine. But we want to be just checking one source, I think. Now, if we have a look at it in terms of Elder Scrolls 4, it has, via Steam Spy, 1.97 million copies. So obviously Elder Scrolls as a franchise is bigger than Total War. But for the 19-year-old games, they're pretty close. So there's about 400,000 copy difference between Oblivion and Medieval 2. That's not ridiculously insignificant. Now, another thing is that if you listen to people that talk about their original experience with Oblivion, and then also listen to people talk about their original experience with Medieval 2, it's basically one-to-one. If you take out every reference to Medieval 2, or to the actual gameplay, and just talk about how people actually feel about the game, they offer basically similar emotional explanations as to why they love it. You know, this game, I played it so much in my childhood, I played like 1,000 hours in this game, I just buried myself into the mods of this game. Medieval 2 and Oblivion had just ridiculous amounts of replayability, and people have a lot of nostalgia for it, and a lot of fondness for this game. That's why Medieval 2 to this day is still like 95% positive reviews on Steam. The game has aged pretty well, considering it's 19 years old. Obviously the engine is quite clunky now, and obviously graphically it has fallen behind, as games do, but when I play other Total War games that are particularly old, like for example Rome Total War, I always get huge stability issues. It's constantly crashing, that kind of stuff. But with Medieval 2, I don't get anywhere near as many stability issues, so I feel like the game has held on quite well by comparison to games that came out in a similar time. Now, as we've said before, Rome Total War has had a remaster, but I actually think that that was a mistake for Creative Assembly to do their first remaster on Rome Total War, because Rome Total War, while it in many ways put Total War on the map, it has actually never been more popular than Medieval 2, except for when Medieval 2 hadn't come out, because obviously Rome Total War is older than it. So now the next comparison I want to make is between Medieval 2 and Rome Total War, the original. Again, utilizing just the Steam stats, because of course there's going to be some people that have the disc version for Rome Total War and have never registered it. But we can't analyze information based on no analytics whatsoever, so we can only use the information that's available at hand here. So if we have a look here, the concurrent player count over the past 12 years is a bit more erratic in Rome Total War compared to Medieval 2, whereas it hits a 5,000 concurrent player count in like basically 2016, and then essentially sustains that up until now, with spikes indicating probably big sales. But when we look at Rome Total War, it's kind of all over the place. So here it is quite stable for several years at about 2,000 concurrent players, gets some spikes over here, and then drops off here, which is, this is where Rome Remastered come out. And so it took about half of the players from Rome Total War that play it consistently and transferred it over to Rome Remastered. Now, I don't think that Rome Remastered was a fantastic remaster. I like it, I do play it every now and again, but I don't think it was it didn't really do enough to really bring me back to Rome Total War, largely because the gameplay between Rome Total War and Medieval 2 is quite similar, and in my opinion, Medieval 2 Definitive Edition plays better than Rome Remastered, just because of inherent issues which were fixed between the original and Medieval 2, especially in regard to pathfinding and also battle pacing. And also, really importantly, in terms of modability. Medieval 2 is significantly more moddable and has way more mods on it than Rome Remastered. Although, between Rome Total War and Rome Remastered, they actually added a lot more modability to the remaster, such as they've increased the maximum cap to how many settlements can be in a campaign. Used to be the cap was 199. If you include the ocean territory as well, it's 200. And now I don't know if there is an actual limit to how many settlements. So we're basically seeing mods coming out now for Rome Remastered that are significantly bigger in campaign maps, like 400, 600 settlements, that kind of stuff. I don't know the exact numbers on this stuff, but we're seeing huge mods for Rome Remastered now. But also, they increased the cap on the number of existing factions that can exist at any given time in a campaign. So in the newer Total War games, like Warhammer 3, for example, you know, having 200 existing factions at any given time, it seems pretty normal. But for Medieval 2, I'm pretty sure there was like a cap of maybe like 20 again, you're gonna have to like correct me on this because I'm not entirely sure. But there was a hard-coded cap to how many factions could be present on a campaign at any given time. And I know that in Rome Remastered, they massively increased that. And so bringing a lot of those improvements from Rome Remastered over to Medieval 2, I think could be really effective. Now, I don't think that Rome Remastered was like a total flop for Creative Assembly, based on what we're seeing here. So if we have a look at the remaster, after 4 years of it having been out, it seems to have sold about 800,000 copies. Now, some of those copies will have been massively discounted, but overall, that seems like a pretty decent number for Rome Remastered, especially based on how much it kind of fell off and retained its player count there. For Medieval 2, you've already got 2.5 times the fan base of Rome Total War, and it's just not being capitalized on. So what I was hoping is that if they were to do a remaster of Medieval 2, that they would basically just do all of the improvements that they did for Rome Remastered and just transfer it over to Medieval 2. So that is to say, obviously improving the textures, bringing them up to 4K graphics, the large address aware, so that being Medieval 2 and Rome 1, I'm pretty sure they can only access 2 GB of RAM, which is ridiculously low for this day and age. Make it being able to access many gigabytes of RAM will help its stability a hell of a lot. And also, Medieval 2 can only access 1 core of your processor. Now, I've got a core that has I got a processor that has 32 cores. So yeah, I'm only using 1/32 of my potential processing power whenever I play Medieval 2. So doing these kind of fixes, I think, would be a big improvement. And on top of that, things like camera controls. One thing that they definitely shouldn't do, that they did do in Rome Remaster, is don't fuck with the UI again. Just leave it alone. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you kind of... it wasn't broken and then you made it broken, because one of the biggest criticisms to Rome Remastered was the UI. It's awful, it's terrible. It's way less readable, it's way more clunky. It's got all the information that you need. It's not very good UI. Just leave the Medieval 2 UI alone. The original UI. Don't import the UI from a mobile game into like a Steam game. It doesn't make sense to do that, because obviously if you're making UI for a mobile game, it's because you've got less space to work with and people are using their fingers or whatever to deal with it. So just leave the UI alone. But yeah, if they just did that alone, and I don't think they need to go in and fix the AI. Every single Total War game has got bad AI, and you're going to have a lot of people say, no, they need to go in and improve the AI. Yeah, I don't think that's going to increase the sales, and I think that a lot of people just don't really care too much about it. Maybe make it so that on very hard campaign difficulty, the AI get a little bit more cheats, because they can be quite a pushover. Or maybe add an actual legendary difficulty to Medieval 2 Remastered. That could actually be really good to see. But another thing that they did in Rome Remastered is also increase the scale as well. There is like an extreme scale, which doesn't work very well at all. Where they increased the size of the units to beyond Ultra, make them really big unit sizes. I'd love to see that for Medieval 2, because me personally, I love to have massive battles. And I do think that the pathfinding is a lot better in Medieval 2 than it is in Rome Remastered. In fact, I used to mod Medieval 2 in my own time and increase the sizes of all the units to its absolute hard-coded limit. So in Medieval 2, and I believe it's the same in Rome 1 Original, the absolute hard-coded cap for any infantry unit was 253 troops, because you could have 250 troops and then like 3 types of captains, and then you just couldn't get it any higher than that. And I think that there was the same thing for cavalry as well. They capped out at about that much, although cavalry kind of count as 2 entities, so it may have been 125 entities per cavalry unit that you could max out as. But it'd be really good if they were able to extend that out, because some people like to play on those huge unit scales. And that just, again, reinvigorates Medieval 2, because the players are there and they're still playing it, and revitalizing it. I think you could capitalize on those sales. Basically, capitalize on just what Bethesda did here. Did the exact same thing. I mean, Oblivion and Medieval 2, exact same age, given a couple of months. More or less the exact same reception from different fan bases. There's no reason why Medieval 2 Remastered couldn't work for Medieval 2. Now, another thing that I want to go over is why Medieval 2 as opposed to any other Total War game. So people might say, well, just forget about the Total War 2 engine, go and remaster Empire Total War. So Empire Total War, if we have a look at it, has a lower concurrent player count than Medieval 2. Now, it has definitely sold, Steam Spy. Steam Spy is actually, yeah, it has sold more than Medieval 2, for sure. But in terms of concurrent players, it is not as popular today as Medieval 2. Napoleon Total War is half of Empire, actually less than that. Even Shogun 2, oftentimes considered to be one of the most polished Total War games, is what's that, 60% of the concurrent player count compared to Medieval 2. Now, if you go toward the more modern Total War games, look at Rome 2, for example. The Rome 2 engine is kind of still what we're using to this day. So remastering this, and don't forget, we've already got a Rome remaster. I don't think looking at remastering any Total War games that have come out after Shogun 2 is really worth looking at this stage. These are basically not old enough at this stage. Because, yeah, Rome 2 still functions well on modern operating systems, I think. And it's still retained a really good player count. I don't think now is the time to remaster it. But Medieval 2, it's starting to show its age. Giving it a bit of a refurbish, I think, could really revitalize things, especially considering that the historical Total War community has not been getting a good run of things lately. And this might come as a surprise to many of you guys, because I imagine most of you guys watch me for the Warhammer stuff. I actually prefer historical Total War games over fantasy. It's just that it's been such a long time since we've actually had a really good historical Total War game, and they are so few and far between. So I'm willing to accept, just go back to what was one of the best, give it a bit of a polish, and I will probably sink in another 1,000 hours into this game. And I would honestly love to see all the overhaul mods that will come out for Medieval 2 Remastered. If there is like a stainless steel 5.4 or whatever, where they extend the map even if like over to America and to India or whatever because of the improvements made by the remaster, man, I'm gonna get so many hours out of that, especially if it is significantly more stable as well. So that just excites me thinking about it. But again, Creative Assembly is only going to do this if they feel like it's going to be profitable for them. Now, there's two ways of basically making it profitable. There's just the raw sales, so just getting a high number of sales. But the second thing that I think is really important is brand awareness, hype. So one thing that Total War is currently suffering from is actually lack of hype. There isn't much hype towards the future of the future of historical Total War games right now. There's not a whole lot of hype. People have been sort of disheartened by the past few years, such as, you know, lackluster releases like Troy and Pharaoh, and I guess you're gonna get so many people saying like, but Pharaoh's really good. I just can't get into this again. People have sort of just stopped paying attention to it. Like, Total War has basically become hijacked by Warhammer, and I don't have a problem with there being an existing fantasy or even just like a huge amount of Total War being Warhammer. It's just that I really feel like history Total War games should be a thing, and they're kind of not at the moment, at least like newer Total War titles. They've just been left behind, and that's largely, in my opinion, based on it's not based on people don't have interest in historical Total War games anymore, but rather the historical Total War games that have come out have not been wide appealing, they've not been high quality, and they've mostly just been reskins of other like Warhammer games, basically. And they've just not been built on very good engines. And so, in the old saying, if you build it, they will come, Creative Assembly hasn't been building it. I mean, even Three Kingdoms, it was pretty good. And then they just sort of flopped it with it at the end there. And, you know, that was nearly 6 years ago, Three Kingdoms. And like I said, one of the quickest things that I think that they could do to just get a Total War game out there is remaster Medieval 2. Because I think a remaster of Medieval 2 is a hell of a lot quicker to produce than making a Medieval 3. Now, I've heard that Medieval 3 is in the works, and I doubt that it's coming out next year. And I doubt that it's coming out probably before 2030. That's just a guesstimate. And this could also be, if that is the case, this could be a good way to get hype for Medieval 3, prior to announcing it whenever they intend to do that, if that is actually the case. So, I've hopefully made my case here that basically Medieval 2 has a huge potential for purchasers for a potential remaster, as long as it's actually a good remaster. Obviously, if you botch it, then people aren't going to buy it, or they'll refund their copies. You got to do a good job of it. That's the first and foremost thing. But the thing is, they did do a decent job of Rome Remastered. If they just do all the same things that they did for Rome Remastered for Medieval 2, I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. You're always going to have some people that complain. You can't do anything about that. But then on top of that, I think that because of what we've seen with with Oblivion, it's no longer a high risky situation for them to do that. And I think they need to sort of get people talking about Total War again, so that when they do announce their next big historical Total War game, people aren't just like, oh yeah, Creative Assembly, we don't care about that company's products anymore because they've fallen off, sort of thing. You got to get that hype back up. That's, you know, the business pitch from that. So what do we do about this? How do we convince Creative Assembly further that there is actually going to be a decent number of people that will purchase this? Because we can look at all these numbers all day long, and it doesn't really mean that much. Now, we could do a poll, and you know, people could vote on how, you know, if they would purchase a Medieval 2, but I have found that on the internet in this day and age, polls are actually really unreliable. There's this weird mentality that's sort of infected the internet a fair bit over the, I don't know, it's probably for a long time, but it's like getting worse, where people tend to vote on what they think is going to win, not on what they actually think. It's like people have become more like sheep lately. And so whenever I do a poll on the back end of my channel, I get these results and I'm like, I don't think this is correct. And I think some people who have no interest in the poll vote on it just to see what the results are. And so I don't think a poll is the best way to sort of translate to Creative Assembly that there's interest in Medieval 2 Remastered. What I do think has worked in the past and would work perfectly for this is a petition. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open up this here. So on change.org, a few years ago, I did a petition called Make Immortal Empires Available to Everyone That Owns Warhammer 3. We had 32,470 signatures on it. And so that was 9th of December 2022 that this was started. Now, it was maybe 2 months later, maybe 3, I can't remember exactly. Well, this ended up happening. Now, it's entirely possible that Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires was always in their like to-do list to make it available to everyone that owns Warhammer 3. The problem was there was no evidence to suggest that that was actually in the works prior to this petition. I had been in plenty of meetings where people had requested it, and Creative Assembly had said, no, we're not doing that. And then all of a sudden, we did this petition. It got a huge amount of traction, and it suddenly, it was always something on our to-do list all along. And that's fine. Look, if they want to do it that way, that's fine. I don't really care if the petition gets credit. I just wanted more Immortal Empires to become available for everyone that owns Warhammer 3. That's all I wanted at that time. So this is, in my opinion, something that worked. And so we could potentially do it again. It will get no credit. Like, if hypothetically, they don't have Medieval 2 Remastered in the works, and that we do a petition, and it gets the required numbers of signatures, and then 6 months to a year from now, Medieval 2 Remastered comes out, they're not going to credit the petition. And that's fine. We're not doing it for credit. We're doing it because we want the game. So I'm actually going to make the petition during this video here. So I've already clicked on this tab here, Start Petition. We want it to be a global petition. And I'm actually going to use AI to generate the draft for me. Because it'd be interesting to see what it says. Because basically what I want to do here is that I don't want this petition to look like it was written by me. Because I don't want this to just be about me. I don't want it to be focused on me. And a lot of time when I do these sort of things, people will be like, oh, I don't want to support Legend of Total War. Forget about me. I'm not important. The only thing I'm doing is something. That's it. And what I'm trying to do here is try to encourage everyone that wants Medieval 2 Remastered to just do something. You know, make your voices heard. If you don't want to sign the petition, don't sign the petition. That's fine. I can't force you to do that. But just don't do nothing, because doing nothing is not virtuous. You won't get what you want by doing nothing and just hoping that the company is going to be benevolent. They haven't shown evidence that they're going to do that. They're going to do what's in their best interest. So you need to convince them that it is in their best interest. Anyway, so I want... Okay, so let's see. We go make... hang on. Because this is what the chat GPT is going to like base the entire report on, essentially. We go, please remaster Medieval 2 Total War. Okay, why is it personal to you? Medieval 2 Total War is my favorite historical Total War game. Okay. And let's see what it writes for us. Now, we can edit whatever they write if we really want to. But let's just see what comes up. Because it might be really interesting. But yeah, like I said, what I want this to do is just make it look like it was not written by me. So it says, as a long-standing fan and devoted player of Medieval 2, I am making a heartfelt plea for the remastering of this celebrated game. This is not merely a request born out of nostalgia, but a call to preserve and enhance an important piece of gaming history that continues to resonate with so many of its users globally. Medieval 2 Total War, launched in 2006 by Creative Assembly, took the gaming world by storm with its complex gameplay and historical accuracy, garnering a legion of dedicated fans that continues to this day. The game holds an impressive rating of 9 out of 10 on Steam. It's actually 9.5 out of 10 on Steam, standing testimony to its everlasting impact, source Steam. Okay. However, due to technological advancements and changing gaming paradigms, Medieval 2 Total War has begun to show its age. The graphics, although novel for the time, now struggle to compete with newer games, and certain gameplay mechanics could use significant improvements. Remastering Medieval 2 would breathe new life into this beloved historical strategy game, and would not only revitalize my personal favorite Total War game, offering improved visuals and mechanics, but also introduce an entirely new generation of players to the intricate political and historical strategies depicted in the game. I invite all fellow fans, players, and advocates for the preservation of gaming history to lend your voice to this petition. Let us come together to urge the developers to remaster Medieval 2 Total War, ensuring its legacy endures and continues to educate and entertain for years to come. Please sign the petition. I have no problem with this. This definitely wouldn't have been the angle that I would have used, and that's fine. What we can do with this petition here is that if you don't like how this is written, why don't you guys write a bio in like the comment section of the video, and I'll, like, if it's good enough, if you get loads of upvotes, I'll literally just copy paste it into this, and I'll credit you as well if you want the credit, that is. But like I said, I don't want this to be about me. Basically, the way it works, the way it can work, is that I need to use my platform to get it reach, but I don't want this to be like this is a victory for Legend of Total. No. It shouldn't be about me at all. I just want Medieval 2 Remastered. That's the only thing I care about. And so I just want to have as little about me in this as possible. And if I write it, I'm going to write it in my way of writing. People will tell it's me, basically. So we'll do that. Okay, so I will upload an image. I've got a basic one that I can use for now, but it's really low res. I'll adjust this and maybe put in some like edit remastered in there. This is a low res image. I will adjust this before it goes live, so you won't see this one specifically. So avoid images with text. That's fine. We can adjust this as we go. We can edit the petition. Okay. No, okay, I'm going to pause the recording now while I do the, I'm not putting in my personal details in a video here so that people can bloody harass me. So I'm just going to sort out the last little stages of the petition here. Okay, all I did was basically press continue. I didn't have to put anything in, so. Alright, let's see. I just want to look at it. What? We got no supporters yet? Oh, this is doomed to fail. Alright, so that's just looking at it from the analytics side of things. We look at it from live. This is what it currently looks like. So there's the writing. Oh, it says started by Legend of Total War. Yeah. Maybe what I'll do is I'll change my name in this, and I'll make it I'll change my name to something else so it doesn't even look like it's from me. But yeah, basically, if you want Medieval 2 Remastered, my recommendation would be to sign the petition and share it to people that you think will sign it. But it's really important, don't share it to people and ask them to sign it if they don't want Medieval 2 Remastered, because what I want to do here is convince Creative Assembly that everybody that has signed this petition is somebody that would buy this game. And so, if that's the case, this is roughly what I think we need to achieve in order to be convincing to Creative Assembly. I think we need to hit a minimum of 50,000 signatures, probably within the first month. If we don't get 50,000 signatures within the first month, I'd pretty much just write this off as it's not going to work. At least in terms of the petition. Not saying it wouldn't ever happen, but the petition might not work. Now, that being said, if you don't think a petition is the best way to go about it, by all means, I'm open to suggestions. Let me know what you think would be the best way to go about promoting the idea of Medieval 2 Remastered. And like I said, I'm open to suggestion. What I can do is use the weight of my platform on YouTube to promote the idea and try to convince Creative Assembly that it is a good idea. Now, that being said, if the vast majority of people don't actually want Medieval 2 Remastered, this is going to be pretty apparent early on. Like, if this only gets 500 signatures after a month, then we know that this is never going to happen. And if Creative Assembly was actually thinking about doing Medieval 2 Remastered, then we've just given them information that no, they shouldn't. But yeah, so this is really just about like market research by just getting as much information from you guys as possible as to like, would you purchase Medieval 2 Remastered? That's the real question here. And the reason why I think that a petition is better than a poll is because a poll is too easy to participate. With a poll, all you have to do is click the mouse. With a petition, all you have to do is like click the mouse and kind of sign it a little bit. It's too hard for a lot of people. You know, I don't want to do that. Plus, the number of signatures is visible to you without having to have participated in the poll, and I think it'll be a lot more accurate than a poll. And I think that accuracy is more important than convenience. And so I want to make it as accurate as possible. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of this. Give me suggestions as to how you want to go about it. You know, I believe this worked for Immortal Empires back in 2022. I believe this can work for Medieval 2 if people are actually interested in it. It's entirely possible that I've completely overestimated things and that people just want to see Medieval 3 and don't give a shit about Medieval 2 Remastered. But, you know, like I said, Oblivion Remastered has fucking smashed it, and I would love to see Total War get a win of a similar caliber, and I would love to see a graphically enhanced Medieval 2. It is something that I think I would easily sink in 1,000 hours, and I know that a lot of you guys... Oh, hang on, I didn't mean to press that. No, hang on, let me pause this. Yeah, so it's just a klutz. I hit the big picture mode on Steam, no big deal. Anyway. Once again, completely lost my train of thought. Because, yeah, these videos aren't scripted. I just go off the cusp, and when there's an interruption like that, I lose my train of thought. But anyway, I think I've made my point. I was wrapping up anyway. I know I do tend to go around in circles a lot, and I know there'll be a lot of people on the Reddit that'll be like, oh my god, why can't you just say that in 2 minutes? The thing is, I like to try to be as thorough as possible, because I think that if you're only interested in watching something for a minute, you're probably not that interested in it in the first place, so I'm not really going to cater it to you. Whereas if you've watched this whole thing, I think that you're probably interested in Medieval 2 Remastered occurring, and so there's, I think, a good chance of you participating. Also, by posting, talking about the remaster, the petition at the end, like the second half of the video, as opposed to at the beginning of it, we're going to weed out a lot of the people that are basically low attention span. They just basically aren't that interested in it. So I've made it as difficult as possible for people to actually sign the petition. So it's going to be tough to get that 50,000. It's going to be tough. And this isn't one of those times where, like, sitting on your hands and being like, well, this isn't going to work, and I'm just going to sit back and wait for it to happen. That's not going to work. Basically, if you're interested in the game, in Medieval 2 Remastered, and you don't want to sign it for whatever reason because you like have like a fear of failure, let me just tell you something. You fail at 100% of the objectives that you don't attempt. Now, over the course of my life, I have failed a hell of a lot, but I don't regret the failures at all, because at least I gave it a shot. And every failure, you learn something from it. But I've also succeeded a lot. And the thing is, you can't be afraid of failure, because if you are, you'll never succeed. There's a decent chance that this isn't going to work. But I tell you what has a 100% chance of not working: doing nothing. And I'm just not the kind of person that thinks doing nothing is virtuous, and so I'm not going to do nothing. So what I'm asking you guys to do is just do something if you want to see it. Anyway, that's the end of this one here. I hope you've at least enjoyed this video. Give me some feedback in the comments below, and let's try to work together and see if this is a viable possibility. That's all I really want to see. And hopefully we'll get this one day. That's what I'd love to see. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.